All right. Thank you for joining me tonight. Um, I know this is a late stream. However, I always follow when Spirit tells me to go live. It's not like I have a set schedule yet. Well, my name is Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. I am the founder and chief principal teacher of the Circle of Grace One. The Circle of Grace One was established on July 2nd, 1974. And it took about 25 years after that to really get it into place. So on July 2nd, 1999, I began to put this name forward frequently. The Circle of Grace One is my spiritual and metaphysical ministry. And one of the things you need to know about it is that the reason why it is called Circle of Grace One, just like you see the picture back there, is because the first grace in my life was my own biological mother by the name of Grace Virginia Delaney, maiden name Delaney, Revels married name. And she taught me a lot of spiritual and metaphysical things because she herself was, at that time when I was born, she was pretty much into what they call the AMORC, which is the Ancient Mystical Order of the Rose Cross, better known as the Rosicrucians. And she was also a member of a group called Astara. Those two organizations are still around today. Now, she taught me a lot of things on her own. I had no idea I would fall into this. I had my very first spiritual or metaphysical magical dream when I was 8 years old. And at that time, I had a dream about this college that I would eventually go to. If you read my first book called Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace, it shows you a little bit about that. I've written 7 books, 6 of them since I've been here, 2011 through right now, going into 2023, 2024. I've written 6 books, actually, 6 books here. What I'm going to talk about tonight is the two back to back, side by side, 13-week online courses that I'm going to be teaching in 2025. The one that I'm going to kick off on February 5th, which is a Wednesday of 2025 for 13 weeks, is called The Key to Life is Numerology. And that's based on this book right here. I published this book and put it out on Amazon. This was book number 6, and it came out in about 2022, I believe around June 2022. And I've taught a course online to a lot of my students since that time, about 3 or 4 times. So this will be the third or fourth time that I'm going to be teaching online to a set group of people who are interested. Also, this other book came out 2023 of this year, and specifically 2024, I should say. I had it out on Amazon. And this book is Radiant Heart: The 7 Amazing Pathways to Connect, Activate, and Communicate with Your Higher Self. And last year, I taught that course in July. And I've been prompted by my ancestors and other students who want to take the course on that book. Radiant Heart will begin on it will begin on Tuesday, March the 4th, and it will end by May 27th. Now, what you need to know is that I have standard fees for these courses, and I also have early bird prices. So if you were to sign up for the book, for the course, The Key to Life is Numerology, which is this book right here, if you were to sign up for this course, you have an opportunity to pay the standard fee of $400, but you have to make that price somewhere between January 19th and February the 26th. Now, The early bird fee price for this course is it starts on January the 2nd and it ends January the 18th. And it's only for $297. So it's a golden opportunity to get a course like this and save yourself some money, at least about 103 bucks worth to get the course and to take this course. Just as you see me doing here, live video stream will be on my private Zoom platform and we'll all be together studying it live. Now, if you take the Radiant Heart book here, this course again starts on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, and it will end on May 27th of 2025. The standard fee for this course is $437, and you have to pay it somewhere between February the 1st and February the 28th. The early bird price fee for this book will be $365, and you can make the early bird payment between January the 2nd and January 31st of next year. Now, I feel these are two important courses. A lot of people are studying numerology. Many of you who may know me through being a guest of Lloyd Strayhorn, who's an astronumerologist. And I've been usually selected or chosen by him amongst all of his other students to be a guest on his podcast, which usually airs as Live with Lloyd on YouTube. I believe it comes through YouTube, LinkedIn. You probably broadcasting live through Instagram and, of course, Facebook. And so you're getting all of these opportunities to speak to such a highlighted astronumerologist, longtime friend, Lloyd Strayhorn. And I'm one of his older students, and I had been studying numerology prior to meeting him in 1978. So I have a wealth of information. I might use the standard course lineup for the numerology book that when I taught it twice, 2 to 3 times already. Also, I also am available to teach you privately, but the course fees are still the same. And usually, if you don't want to take them back to back every week, you can do every other week, and it gives you a little bit more time to marinate that information in your soul, so to speak. So I'm very excited about having this opportunity to come on and share this information with people. Now, for all of you that might be tuning in right now, I will be on for maybe about an hour. I'm going to talk about perhaps an array of things. One of the things I want to talk about is numerology. We're coming toward the end of this 2024 tomorrow night by most standards. So, if many of you are into numerology on some level, you might want to know how numbers and things look good for you, especially what we call your personal year cycle. And so, what I'm going to briefly do right now is give forth some of that information. Now, I'm not one who I would say look so far into the future. I think you have excellent astrologers all over the world doing that. You can find them in various places from TikTok. I would say a little bit on TikTok, but a lot of them have their own channels here on YouTube. You can find them in other locations, other social media platforms, or just go to their websites. And they give excellent information and they know how to put all of that together and show you the cycles of things that are going to happen in 2025 and things that have perhaps happened 20, 30, 40 years ago when the planets line up again. What I would like to let people know is people often ask me, what do you think? Or what do you feel? This is going to be a very interesting year. And I believe a lot of it is going to depend on how well we know ourselves inwardly. Usually, when something like this comes about, it kind of pushes everybody's buttons. And I mean everybody's buttons. From those who have been on the higher levels of the light workers to those who are in between and those who are just getting started. We all are being pushed and impressed, but pushed to put forth our light onto the planet and not be afraid. Guarantee that sometimes there's going to be some fears. There's people out there doing a lot of ritualistic work for many, many years, for at least 20 years. This is somehow or sometimes why you feel a little on edge, because you might have people in your surrounding neighborhoods gathering together at certain time in small groups, or two small groups of 2 or 3 people, to large groups of 20 and 30 people, practicing ritual magic in certain areas, certain communities, focusing on certain areas, certain land masses, focusing on certain cities, focusing on various groups of people. And then there are people who are just out there trying to help other people see light for themselves, help guide them with light. And that's very important. There are many metaphysical schools, spiritual and metaphysical churches. I think one of the best ones, the best two I've seen so far, is the Unity Church. And they are all over the United States, as well as the Science of Mind, which is now called the Center for Spiritual Living in many places around the United States. And I think one of the best teachers I've seen so far in a long time is Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's out on the West Coast, and he has his own Agape Spiritual University Church Center School, and he's been doing it for a long time. And I really admire his work. And I've been never had a chance to meet him, but hopefully we'll do one day a virtual face to face, and maybe if the spirit within me gathers enough focus and force, I can jet out there, or as I like to do, the Amtrak, chugga chugga chugga. I'm only 2 states over to where he is. I love the train. Now, one of the things that I also feel that is quite important is meditation. So I'm going to talk about that as well, some of the basics of meditation, and why I feel that meditation is highly important. I've been doing meditation since I was introduced to it in 1971, in the middle of 1971, from a non college student on a college campus who called himself a military brat, meaning his father was in the military when he was younger, and they just traveled all over the world. Whatever location the father was stationed in, that's where he was. And I mentioned him briefly in my seventh book here called Radiant Heart, that he was my teacher, and that he used to take me out in some of the woods on the campus and literally sit out there on a tarp, on a log underneath the tarp, and meditate. And we did that for about 6 weeks. Then he went away and came back, but I kept going. I've had the privilege to experience something called the Shakti Pile. And I had that on, I think that was April 7th of 1977. But my third eye opened up with my crown right around that freshman, sophomore year when I was about 19 or so. And I had a dramatic physical headache. It was so intense that I thought that someone hit me right down the center with an axe. That's how painful it was. And I went running out into the student dorm, yelling and screaming, "Help, help, help." But only to find out later I was in an astral location on another plateau overlapping the dormitory. So it turns out that the students were sound asleep during the time when I thought I was physically running around inside and outside the dormitory. And that's why I was in college. And that happened to me, as I say, way back in 1971, 1972. And then 5 years later, I experienced the Shaktipat initiation. And then that opened me up on a whole entire level. That's where your Kundalini is gradually released from the base of your spine inside the column of the spine and travels like a serpent. The Kundalini is the fire cobra, so to speak, and it gets all the way up to all of your chakras and eventually taps your pineal gland, which then leaps energetically into your pituitary gland. And then the brow center is open and the crown is open. And that took about 11 years when that experience finally came to me. It took, so I had it in 1977. By 1988, I experienced that. And then it took another 4 or 5 years going back down through the spinal column, through the chakras. And then when it got down to the tailbone, boom, it happened again. Now, not many people have an opportunity to experience the awakening of your Kundalini. And I might say, not that I'm knocking other people, but there's a lot of advertisement going on right around now where people are selling these techniques of opening the base chakra like that and having the Kundalini rise. And I'll tell you, in all of these years from 1977 all the way up right now to 2024. Now, we're talking about how many years? 1977 to this time, we're talking about close to 50 years. Well, I've seen people in Tai Chi classes do that without proper supervision, proper tools, proper programming. I've seen them walk around with burn marks on their skin. I've seen their skin peel away. I see them hallucinating because their worst traumas come up in the mind, and your mind is like a theater. I've seen people stress out to the point where they have anger issues that have never been conquered. I've seen people also go through great stress where, let's say, they overcame cancer. Cancer went into remission, and then years later, cancer came back. Why? Because the Kundalini is there, which is a fire, electrical fire running through your body. Some people lost weight drastically, so much weight that they shriveled up within 6 months and then are gone. Transition, using that word die. So it's very, very important. This is not a game. Some people have used herbs to open themselves up. If you ever read the book by Carlos Castaneda, he wrote several books. He was an author here in the United States, and he was around Mexico and New Mexico area, and took something called peyote pills, not pills or tabs, for the peyote plant to have an experience where he thought the people that gave him those that peyote to ingest, he thought those people were his enemies. He had some of the wildest out of body experiences and dreams where he thought those people were attacking him. In essence, they were on the peyote too, but they've had the experience and they could help him in the dream world come back to himself. And now people are using other plants to open themselves up. And I've seen a lot of people journey back and forth from here to South America. The only thing is, they haven't changed. And it's not for me to judge that. I'm just saying not everybody changes overnight. It's not an overnight success deal. Neither is the Kundalini. When you have your experience of the Shaktipat, you're fortunate to get it one time. I was fortunate to have it 2 to 3 times on its own and it's not a pleasant experience. The first level for me was like, you might say, running out of my shoes because it was too much heat, too much excitement in the brain, too much going on. But I was blessed that I wasn't someone smoking marijuana or taking some speed pills or anything or drinking alcohol. I was drinking some herbal teas to be as calm as I could, such as chamomile. I was fortunate that I learned a little bit about the philosophy of Tai Chi Chuan, and I would practice that religiously as much as at least twice a day. Get up early in the morning, practice for an hour. Get off from work, practice for another hour or 2 hours. And then on a Saturday, do what I could. But on a Sunday, go out to the state park where I lived on Long Island at the time and stay out there in the state park in Nassau County and work with the energy. You have to find ways to calm the mind and calm the body. So, this book, Radiant Heart, will teach you 7 basic ways. Now, there are more ways than that you will learn. And I'll read a passage tonight from this book, and I'll read a little passage from the numerology book. Well, some people like to know, well, hey, what should I be doing next year? Well, we like to say, as a numerologist, pay a little bit more attention to the birth month, birthday that you have, the numbers that represent it, then allow yourself to figure out the number for each one of the months. So, as an example, if you were born coming up January the 1st, if you're born January the 1st, what do you think that would be mean for you? So let's say you're born January the 1st, and we're going to take a look at 2025 for you. Well, first of all, 2025 is going to reduce to the number 9. And when we add the 1 and 1 together, that's a 2, 2 plus 9, you're going to have the master number 11. That means you're going to experience a master number 11 with the hidden value of the number 2. And that's going to take you from 1 2025 all the way up to 12/31 of 2026. So if you were listening to this right now, you're not going to start this Master 11/2 personal year because you are still in a 1 vibration. That means 2024, reduce the digits, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8. Add that to the 1 plus 1, and you're going to get something as simple as a number 10, which happens to be a 1. And so, what you're going to find, what you're finishing off is self discovery. Who have you been? What have you been going through since last year's birthday? 1/1/2024 up to going right into tomorrow, 12/31/2024. You're going to question yourself, but you're getting ready to find out how to connect and relate to other like minds because you're going to enter a 2 personal year on January the 1st of 2025. Well, here's something else you should be aware of too. That nature of the 1 doesn't really change you that much because that's how you came here. You decided to come in the first month on the first day. So you were stressing that you wanted to be an independent soul, independent person operating in your own life and making the necessary decisions and changes for yourself. Number 1 would suggest under the sign of Capricorn that you pay attention to your thoughts. That's very important because under Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign, you're going to maybe deal with some of the past issues that you are confronting all the time. Some of it is with elders. Maybe you got elder people to take care of in your life, even though you've been an independent person, probably around 17, 18, 19 years of age growing up. So you want to look forward to clearing your past. Pay attention to who your elders are. Or you're seeking life achievements, because that comes under the vibration of eight as well. Can you be practical and down to earth? That's essential. That comes under your sun. Well, what are if you are a person? Now let's March. That's how you kind of find your numbers. So again, if you take the number for the first month, January is the number one, February is number two, March is number three, April is number four, May is number five, fifth month in this current calendar system. June is number six, right? July is number seven. August is the eighth month. September the ninth month. And then you've got October, November, December. So the way they usually work it is 10th month, 11th month, 12th month. The 10 is a 1, the 11th is a 2, the 12th is a 3. Now you would add those numbers, whichever month you were born in, to the numerical calendar date. To make it more simple, we just reduce it to any number from 1 to 9. And then we take that and we add that into the current year. However, if your birthday didn't come up yet, it will be -1. You're going to subtract from that number. So let's keep it simple. If you were born on any one of these numbers, however you choose to calculate it, if it comes out to say a 2 personal year, well, the 2 personal year is going to get you into a level of uh, having more harmonic relationships, paying attention to more details in your life. If you are a person in the business, you're going to pay attention to the details in contracts and agreements. You're going to study law a lot. You might be in the field of healing, so you might want to look at that. If you're a person born under a water sign such as Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, then the number 2 might be a number where you're going to have to really work more on your emotions. Now, if you happen to be a number 2 Scorpio person, you should work on that, especially if you come around October 29th. You're going to have a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts going on in your mind, but you're going to need how to bring more balance into your life. That's going to be very important for you. Now, what if, let me jump back a little bit. If the personal year number is a 1 for you, pay attention to your thoughts that you have. Try to worry less. Be more organized. You might draw into your life people under the sun sign of Leo and Aquarius, Cancer and Pisces. Now, if you are a individual born on the 2 or having the 2 vibration as a personal year cycle, you will draw the same number of people. You would have mainly more Cancerian and Pisces people around that can assist you with your emotions, and have Leo and Aquarius to bring those emotions more into a practical side. In other words, become a little bit more mental. Well, suppose you added up those numbers into 2025, birth month and birthday. Supposedly it adds to the number 3. Well, your emotions are going to be checked a lot. You're going to find yourself being a little bit more competitive. You're going to find yourself becoming more of a conscientious type of person. In other words, you're going to live by principles. You're just not going to be operating all over the place. You might occasionally become a little on the nervous side, emotionally upset, because that 3 energy is a fire, just like the number 1. And ones, threes, fives, sevens, and nines love to be more independent than being involved with groups of people all the time, unless they're the leaders. Three is asking you to become more creatively or bring forth your creative ideas. The nature of that three is use what you have. Become creative with the spoken or written word. Maybe you should write a book. Maybe you should write down and journal your thoughts and ideas and feelings. Maybe you should write some poetry. Maybe you're a composer for music. Maybe you're a choreographer. Maybe you're someone who likes making jewelry or doing things with your hands. But you know who does that as well? The number four person, or a person coming into a four personal year. When you're in a four personal year, you might be confronted with things from the past, or you might be around people who are a little older than yourself, and they might see a lot of maturation with you. If you're in a four personal year, it's about becoming a little bit more organized and not have yourself all over the place. Sometimes in a four personal year, and if you happen to be a four personal person, you may not have your home or your surroundings or your office always in order, and it's okay. What you're going to find yourself do eventually is come forward with a lot more ideas. What is so unique with number four personal year? And if it happens to play on that number four as a birth date number, you're basically a genius. You're always thinking outside the box. People can't get a yes out of you unless they phrase that question in the opposite direction like a no. But fours are brilliant people. Fours are observers. I know a lot of fours, people born on the number four. They're good at capturing images. They're great at photography. They're great at history. They're great at social activism. Fours. Why? Because they're the revolutionary thinkers of the world. So if you're in a four personal year, you're going to do things dramatically different than your family members, than your life partners, than your friends. That's the four. But what if you have a five personal year? Well, four means energy drags a little bit and can be somewhat sporadic. Five means things move quickly. If you happen to be born on a numerical day that adds to five, you might want to consider driving a little slower on the road. Pay attention to what's going on around you. If you're in a five personal year, you're going to want to do things swiftly. You want to get all your tasks done as soon as possible. But what you should be is very inquisitive. See, the nature of a five is sort of like Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Virgos work on their health, Geminis work on relationships and how to balance those relationships. Five is also like the number three, a nerve energy. So you can be quite nervous in a five personal year. Don't let things overwhelm you. Here's a great thing you might want to realize. Since five shares energy, high tense energy like a number three, three will draw up a Sagittarian type personality. Threes and fives might burn each other out because they're constantly on the go and they need mental stimulation. So if you're around a person experiencing a three personal year and you're in a five personal year, what would ground you out more? A six? Because the six vibration is dealing with community and family and is dealing with your personal responsibilities. A number two, because you're involved with relationship patterns and trying to stick to just the details and keep things simple, looking for peace, harmony, and happiness. Now, what if your personal year cycle adds to six? That means birth month and birthday and the current year that you're going into, 2025, or maybe your birthday doesn't come up yet, so you're in 2024. So, what's going to happen is you happen to have a six personal year. Well, the sixth personal year is all about health, the dynamics of health, with you personally, with your family, loved ones, friends, but it's also about not taking on too many things and trying not to be the dominating personality in any of your relationships. Six should be more family oriented or team player oriented, where if everybody does something together, we get something done. Hey there, how you doing there, Sister Rose? So if you're in a six personal year, you're going to take care of yourself first, then family members, and then any friends around you, and anybody, you got a coworker, you and a coworker get together. You want to really work on that and work on your breathing. That's going to be very important. Fives and sixes can sometimes be caught up and be hyperventilating a lot. So you want to be a little bit more careful in that. And then if you happen to find yourself in a seven personal year, meaning your birthday doesn't arrive until a little later after January from last year, then if you're in that seven, or if it pops up in the month of January, a seven personal year tells you to get in touch with the deepest part of yourself. That's right, your metaphysical, spiritual self is highly important. Yes, if you're in a five personal year, what you want to do is make your changes, but make them gradually. That's going to be important to you. Observe everything that's going on around you when you're in a five personal year. And goes the same for people who are in four, seven, or eight personal year. Pay attention to what's going on around you, as well as a nine. Pay attention to what's going on around you, and don't let yourself get pulled into too many different situations. People in a seven personal year, especially if they're born on the 16th, they have to watch out for being in the middle of arguments in families, arguments between couples, arguments between close friends, because everybody's going to want them to take a side. And if you're in a seven personal year, you don't want to do that. You want to be like, okay, I've heard enough. I'm going home now. Or I've heard enough. Everybody's in my house that's arguing. I need you to go home so I can have my castle back. So when you're a seven personal year, you might find yourself doubting yourself a little bit. That happens. Just recently, someone contacted me on TikTok. I'm not going to say the name right now, but I wasn't sure if the person was the person until a little later on. I said, you know what? I better contact this person. And they said email them. First time I tried to email him, it didn't go through. I gave him my email and I stated a few things. And I believe this is the person. Has to be because the way the email is written, it's a genuine email. And I could feel the heart of this individual. And I was saying, wow, this will be the first time. And if it does kick off into something good, I'll be able to announce it later. But I'm going to keep it under wraps until we have a nice closeness with each other. But anyway, if you're in that seven personal year, what you want to be able to do is really spend a lot of more time to yourself. Now, this is can be a little difficult if you're involved with people who are constantly on the go all the time. I know I'm a number seven person. I don't mind being around large groups, but I enjoy my quiet time or just with a few people. Why? Because with just a few people, even in a place that's active, I get more eye to eye communication going on. I get more peace and harmony happening, a more rhythmic kind of life rather than just be out and about. Sevens love their quiet time. And at my age, 72, I'm not interested in being in the marching parades, being at casinos. I'm not into all of that now. I just want to just relax. That's all I want to do and have some hearty conversations with some close people. So, sometimes we're in the seven personal year. Four, seven, and eight is when you have what I call the old soul vibrations. And what happens is you start attracting people into your life who are a little older than yourself. or have more life's experience than you do, or may see you as the one having a lot of life's experience. 4, 7, and 8 attracts the elders. And if you're an elder like myself, I find myself attracting a lot of elders. Elders in the metaphysical and spiritual world. They could be younger than myself, but I see them as elders because they carry so much wisdom and they're living it. So when you're in that 8 personal year, it's about dealing with restrictions and limitations, sometimes power and authority figures, but it also means to become more authentic for yourself. So when you become more authentic for yourself in an 8 personal year, you have this opportunity to share your wealth of information with the world, receive a wealth of information from the world and from some of the best people around you. They begin to get attracted to you and you are attracted to them. Now, if you're in that 7 personal year or 6 personal year, 6, you're going to attract Taurus and Libra personalities. If you're in a 7 personal year, you're going to attract Pisces, Cancer, Leo, and Aquarius type of individuals. And when you come into an 8 personal year, then you're going to bring about Capricorn people, followed by Libra, and maybe some Aries, maybe some Scorpio people. But I would think that you would bring a little bit more of the Sag around. That you might find a little bit more Pisces, Sag and Pisces, that keep the earth a little bit more fluid. Okay. If a person happens to experience a 9 personal year and their birthday hasn't arrived until a little later in 2025, but they're operating in a 9 personal year right now, it's about getting ready to close the door on some old things. Find out what doesn't work anymore and release it out of your system. That's going to be very, very important. Release out of your system what is no longer needed. That's very important to do that. And 9s will attract themselves. 9 is Mars. That's Aries and Scorpio people, or people in the ninth house, which is sort of like Sag. Like people in the 8 will attract themselves Capricorn, little Aquarian, but people in the 8th house, such as Scorpio, will understand them a lot better. So it's very important to pay attention to who is around you, who's in your circle, who you get along with, and who you don't get along with, especially when you enter the 9. 9 sometimes you can find yourself in a 9 personal year with a lot of friction going on. So you want to be a little careful about who's the person that argues all the time. Who's the person that wants to be seen all the time? You got to stroke their ego all the time. People in 9 personal years, they need their ego stroked a little too much. And so you don't want all of that around you because they like to be competitive in a 9 personal year. Or they can tell you they know everything and you know nothing. So be careful under a 9 personal year, especially if you're born on a 9, 18th to 27th of any sign, and you're going through a 9 personal year. Watch out for all that tension, all that fire that can build up around yourself, emotional tirades happening around yourself. So these are some of the things you want to become adjusted to. Now, I'll take something from this book. One of the things that I wrote about in this book was master numbers. And sometimes master numbers can show up in a birth year. It depends on how you choose to interpret that birth year, though. Some people say, okay, well, I got a double digit master number happening in my year that I'm born in. So, say, as for instance, a person could have 44 and say, oh, I'm born in a 44. Well, the only thing about that is you have to add the birth month, birth date to the full 4-digit birth year. And if you leave the 19 out of it, and the 19 is what I call the governor, if you leave the 19 out, You may not have a true 44 master number there, but a lot of people do that. And the reason why that happens is because, and I don't always agree with the gateway information, but people go by the universal calendar day, month, and day, and then they clip off the 19 and say, "Oh yeah, this is the gateway. You're in the 12, 12, 12." No. All right. So you need the whole year, the whole four digits to get the proper reading. Sometimes people are experiencing the not only the 11s, the 22s, the 33s, and the 44s. There's all kind of systems and where you can find them to trigger that. But usually, if you have a double digit in a birth year, such as a person born in 1922 or 1911 or 1900 or the year 2000, going all the way up with the double digit to 99, sitting at the end. What usually the double digit master number sitting in there, what it means is that that particular person is will be flipping their thoughts. And what I mean by that, they'll make a decision and hours later, weeks later, change their mind. And if they're dealing in partnerships, business, marital, romantic, just average thing with friends, or they're at work and they're people depend on them to make a decision on time, and then they flip the switch, it causes a lot of problems. So people born with the double digits in their birthday, like that at the end, in the birth year, they have to pay attention to how they're getting their thoughts and how they communicate those thoughts or those decision making opportunities or why they want to change their mind. They're going to have to let people know in their partnerships, hey, sometimes I do this. Now, here's a something to realize. Let's say a person born in 1966. 10, 1 plus 9 is 10, 6 and 6 is 12. That's a master number 22 right there in that year by itself. But they're going to experience it a little later in their life. It's not going to come up so soon. Is when they get past their mid 50s, is when that master number 22 is going to pop up. And that's when they're going to be able to utilize it a lot stronger, especially when they get their 60s and on. So they have to become more grounded. But what happens is the birth year is really like the ground level of a person's birth month, birthday, and birth year. The birth year that the person is born in is the basement, is the root foundation. And then everything else is built upon it. Did you know that the first 28 years or so, 27 years, from 1 to 27, you're ruled by your birth month number? That's the first level. But that dissipates and goes away by the time you hit 28, 29, specifically 2 years after, at age 29, going all the way up to 56. So you hit your second cycle. That first 27 years or so represents the first cycle of whatever your destiny number adds to when you add all those numbers. Your birthday number takes on now the second cycle of whatever the destiny number is. And that run that out age 27 or 29 or so, going all the way up, age 28, going all the way up to about 56. And then right after that, you go a little further. So 1988. Now, the master number is sitting there, but the 19 is the governor. So I have to, the 88 adds to 16. 8 plus 8 is 16. That's a 7. But I'm looking at the governor, which is 19. Why? Because the 1988 is in the century vibration, the 100-year vibration of the 1900s. So 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 16 is 26. 2 plus 6 is 8. So your foundation, that 26.8, it comes through right around 57, 56, 57, 58 years of age. That's when it starts speaking to you. Okay, that 26.8. So that 26 tells me to tell you you working with your emotions, how to become happier with yourself, how to create balance in personal relationship by the vibration of 2, and family or community relationships with the number 6. And the 2 plus 6 is 8. So you're working on your foundation. You might be working on structural foundation, trying to keep that everything in your life in order. Also working on the finances. How do you produce the finances? Do you have a long-standing career that helps you with that? Or are you starting another career? Did you start another career? Sometimes when people have the double-digit master number at the end like that, somewhere down the line, they swing and shift. This doesn't mean it's a bad thing to do. It just means that you are following that inner light with yourself. Something is telling you to add on something. See, so that 1988, that's an 8 vibration in there. And you are going to look for more than one way to keep finances rolling in your life. You might have 2 professional careers going on, plus part time, doing something else in addition. Why? Because you don't want to get bored anyway. You want to keep things moving and going forward for yourself. So that's highly important. So this is how we have to kind of, or this is, I would say, is not the only way, but one of the ways in which to work for things to make sure things are all right. Something tells me here to bring forth a unique vibration here. Yes, something tells me to. I was talking about the numerology, and whenever you play this video back, you'll have this information to even take more notes. I want to talk about my new book, Radiant Heart, because what's going to happen, kicking off on Wednesday nights, February the 5th, going all the way up to, with my notes again, Wednesday, February the 5th, 2025, and ending on the last class, April 30th. This will be a 13-week course on the book, The Key to Life is Numerology. And I'm going to find some different ways to teach. I might replay this video myself and see how I'm going to teach it a lot differently. Yeah, there's plenty of ways in which to do it. If you take the numerology course, the standard fee is $400. You have an opportunity to pay that from January 19th through February 26th, but you can jump on an early bird fee of $297 January the 2nd all the way up to January the 18th. And of course, I'll give out my email numbers. And there's also a silent video that plays in online here that you can watch as well. For Tuesday, March the 4th through May 27th of 2025, I will be teaching from this book, Radiant Heart, the 7 amazing pathways to connect, communicate, or connect, activate, and communicate with your higher self. There's 50 years of work getting it together. Book number 7. You can get it on Amazon for 25, and you can get the Key to Life to Numerology on Amazon for $25. Well, the standard fee for the Radiant Heart course is going to be $437. Should be paid between February 1st and February the 28th. The early bird fee will be $365, which you can pay that from January 2nd to January 31st. That's for this course on Radiant Heart. But here's something that's very interesting. And my ancestors, every time I follow them, they're correct. So if you start putting out, tell me that you would love for me to save your seat. There's going to be, I know for the Radiant Heart course, right now there's 7 or 8 people jockeying for position. I'm going to probably take on about 15, 16 people for each course. We're going to be on a private Zoom platform that I have that I use for all of my courses, whether it's group or private. But you might get the early bird fee for a little less. So you should email me at iam.circlegrace1@gmail.com. That's IAM, and I'll type it in here for either course.